What's up everybody, Mr. Gizmo here. See that red snake right there? I've been trying to install cooling ducts in my car for a long time. Everything that you do on your car has to have a reason. My reason for needing cooling ducts is because I run with some private groups that run 2 to 3 hour sessions. You heard that right, not 20 minutes, but 2 to 3 hour sessions. It's really a whole day that's basically broken up by a lunch break. And that starts getting the brakes overworked. Even if you don't cook your brakes, it's actually still beneficial to have the cooling ducts. And the reason for that is, as you're going through the constant heat on the brakes, the heat actually makes the ped material and the rotor material wear out faster. Again, even though you're not fading them, even though you're not cooking your brake fluid, the heat is actually wearing out your components quicker. So you can make them last longer if you have some cooling. And I'll go through the whole shebang of what I did for cooling. So I've explored Pegasus and Summit Racing and a bunch of other intake systems and tried to piece it all together. So this is my bumper. It's really dirty, really chipped. It's already cracked in a bunch of places. I know I need to replace it, but I'm still working with this. So I went as far as saying, okay, I'm going to remove the stock intake piece that goes in here and create a panel right here with a hole for the brake cooling duct to pick up air. The problem is that I'm running Eventuri, and Eventuri, for those of you who know, has a scoop. And the scoop protrudes just far enough here to where you can't really put any plate behind. Just to show you what I was looking at doing is cut something out like this so that it sits flat like that. And get some inlets here, and the reason that I have two is one would be for the brake and one would be piped in for the Eventuri, because I wouldn't be able to use the scoop itself. I would have to remove it. And then the way that I would do that is I would just go to Home Depot, get some piping, connect it all, and we'll make the air go up, and that's basically what the Eventuri scoop does. So I decided against it, and then what I actually went with. So this is the stock scoop. This is what it looks like. You see that guy? That's a push pin. And what it looks like is these two guys right here. There are two on each side. And they go into this metal bracket. So this is now on the driver's side. So this hole right here is for the front one, and that whole little hole right there is for the rear one. And that's just how that thing is held on. So then instead of making the inlet for the brake cooling duct come up all the way to the front here, what I said is, listen, let's look at the driver's side. The driver's side has this, I guess, resonance chamber, for the lack of a better word, because this is the stock intake size for the stock intake, but that's also where this scoop goes underneath for the Eventuri. Okay, and this resonance chamber is the perfect direction for me to come out right here. So this is driver's side into the car, into the engine, and the reason for that is that if you're going to try to reuse this stock hole, which comes out in the wheel well, driver's side right here, at full lock to the right, this is driver's side, at full lock to the right or inward toward the car, your hose will actually get pinched by the tire. To show what I did on the passenger side, as you can see right there, this is passenger side, so I cut a hole to about 2 inches right around the area where this resonance chamber is on the driver's side. And then I go inside the belly pan. And there again, the reason that you have to go through the belly pan is because if you go through that stock hole, just send the hole straight through there, you'll get pinched by the tire or rub on. So then I drill the hole, as you can see right here. I drill the hole for the hose to come out. I tied it to the sway bar. And then I'm not really attaching anything else to it except for this end here. And this end here, the way that it's attached, and I can show the part number. It's an aluminum inlet like this, 2 inches inner, 3 inches outer, and I've attached it with 2 screws with nuts to the heat shield. And let me show you what the original size of this looks like. So this is an unmodified stock front heat shield on an E46 M3. You can see there's already a hole here. So what I had to do is basically cut out a part of it this way, so that when I have this thing sitting here, the hole is big enough and lines up. Okay. Now what you can see is that this hole is actually right around the middle of the rotor. So this is actually really important, because in the rotors you have the vanes and the vents that pull the air through to cool them. It's important that you do that toward the middle of the rotor. It's actually worse to cool, basically moving this hole out to right about here to the outer edge is actually worse, because then you have the inner rotor surface cooling and the outer one not. But if you have it going through the middle, the vents cool both surfaces at the same time. So that's basically what I did. If you think that having the hole going sideways is not going to pull enough air, you would actually be very surprised. I have a leaf blower sitting outside, and I did a test, blowing the least amount of air here, basically just, you know, enough to move some, and see if I was getting anything on the outside right there of the hose. And it actually blows quite enough. So it's actually really awesome that this whole thing accumulates a bunch of air, and then the air has to go somewhere. So there are block-off plates for the rears. See if I can find an example. So here is an inner fender liner. There is a block-off plate, so it actually goes on like this and lines up right there. So you can see that block-off plate over there will be blocking that. So now the only way that the air has to go is through that hole. Again, it doesn't matter that it's sideways. Even keeping this opening in the back open, there's plenty of air moving through the hose. Okay, it's a little bit trickier on the driver's side, because on the driver's side you also have a hole that goes up into the air intake. And what happens here is, you can see here, the Eventuri takes up basically half of that chamber. So on the driver's side, I would actually have to block off the back here, so that all of the air that makes it into the lower chamber, or the bottom chamber, so to speak, or then goes through the hose and to cooling the brakes, rather than just escaping. So Eventuri kind of seals it, not fully seals it off, but basically separates it into a top section and the bottom section. The top section only goes to the intake here, where my fingers are moving, and the bottom section that goes on to whatever else is available. Okay, so that's as easy as that. The hoses that I got are from Pegasus. If I remember correctly, I'll double check. These are actually really sturdy. You can bend them. Let me see. You can't see here, but obviously bending it from here, going in this way, to bending it over there. Let's see if I can show. Yeah, you can kind of see it. It's not interfering with the AC pulley. But anyway, it goes on in there. And you can bend these guys. You can bend these guys no problem. 180 degrees like this. So the one that I got is actually rated for like 500 degrees. Some of them are a little bit lighter. This one was a little bit more expensive, so I got 9 feet. And this, about 2 feet I'm not going to use on one side. So you can see that I could have ordered less, but I didn't know what I was going to be routing and where. But anyway, the point is that these things are actually also lined with like a really thick wire. So they're really strong, and I can't really like tear this thing apart, so you don't have to worry about jamming this thing into places. I pieced this together with these hoses and aluminum clamp and the aluminum pieces for probably like $100. I didn't want to pay $300 for some name brand. The one thing to note, which I don't have the bumper on right now, but this piece right here, the inlet, is only for basically half of what is open on the bumper, because where my fingers are right now, this is where the fog lights go, and I don't run fog lights, and so I might need to figure out how to cover this off later. Just to mention one other thing that I have thought about but I don't really have a solution for is the next time that I have to drop the belly pan, this is going to be a problem. Because imagine that the wheel well liner and the front bumper are back on, right? This guy is attached with, you can see a hose clamp over there. The other end of it is attached with a hose clamp over here, and there's a hole. So what I thought that I would do is probably right around somewhere here, I would cut this in half, or cut this, basically create a joint, put a hose clamp here and a hose clamp there, and so if I ever have to remove it, I would just unclamp one of the clamps, shoot this through this hole, and then drop the belly pan the way that I would normally do it. And then fishing this back in here, for me, because I don't run fin and shroud here, it would be really easy for me just to stick my hand in there and fish that thing back in. Alright, so there was a lot in this video. Again, a lot of considerations for what I thought I would do. I think the most tricky part was figuring out what to do with the driver's side. Again, because of that Eventuri scoop not allowing me to fit anything in the front of it, like a panel that wouldn't interfere with the bumper, cover. Alrighty. Scoop back in. So it seems to be working well on both sides, and the air scoop is not actually impeding that much flow. So that's cool. That's it for this video. Just a quick update of what I've been up to.